pigs had no bread. Do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
Here, take the bomb.
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people.
Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of The Peasant's Perspective. Ron was pretty excited today because he made sure he got Good Morning Peasants preloaded, ready to go the moment we started streaming. John Atkins, good morning. Welcome others as you file on in. We are streaming everywhere today. YouTube, X, Facebook, Rumble. So fun. Please, if you're joining us on any of the other platforms, we'd love to have you join us on Rumble, join in the live chat, and subscribe. Of course, please subscribe.
How do you get those little sunshines in your text?
I don't know, emojis, AI.
I don't know how to do that.
Hello, welcome. All right, so in Seattle, Jason Rantz announced.
I love him.
Huh?
I love Jason.
Jason's great. I don't know. Part of me is like, looking at other influencers out there. Like one of the big things is like, oh, they'll say whatever comes to their mind, no matter how offensive. They're just shameless. And when I see Jason Ransom, like our local conservative gay Jewish man that's on the radio, you know what I mean? Like who normally in a world that I grew up in would not represent my constituency, but
in a world where the spectrum is so whacked
upside down. Let me introduce you to our gay conservative Jewish talk show host who's constantly breaking great news for us, or not so great news, however you want to take it.
Christine Alar is a senior transportation planner for SDOT, Seattle Department of Transportation, and she told King 5 that they're also adding a bus lane, which is going to make the road safer, even though all it does is make the remaining car lanes more congested, which then leads to more traffic accidents. And if you get into one, our law office is our wonderful sponsor.
The reason why there are so many wrecks is because they're speeding. Taking one of the lanes and designating it just for transit use is a good step towards slowing down traffic.
Can I translate that? Intentionally creating more traffic to slow cars down.
That's how I read it.
That's it's not how you read it. That's what she said. That's what she meant. It's not even about creating a bus lane for the sake of getting transit around more quickly. And she's saying something that few in these departments ever admit to, which is the reason why they add bike lanes. It's not for the bicyclists. It's to hurt the driver.
It was inadvertently a shred of honesty there.
100%, right? This is not to help people on buses. It's to hurt people in cars.
So I know something about this.
Yeah, share away.
Because I do some engineering and traffic is one of the things I have to deal with all the time. And the person he was interviewing or whoever was on the radio that he was talking about is not wrong. They do it on purpose and they do it to create what's called side friction.
Uh-huh.
And it does slow traffic down. So in that sense, they were right, but Jason Rantz is also right because it makes no damn sense.
The problem is you have 1 million people driving into work in a 45-minute period of time. Yeah. You need more space. The bus lanes don't help from where they're coming from. No. That's the other thing too. Oh, by the way, have you ridden on a public transit bus? That's not something a guy in a shirt and tie with a suit and briefcase wants to get on. That's the other thing too that always blows my mind. They're like, look at all these other countries and their transit. I'm like, they have police on the transit. I went to New York for like 3 hours and I saw 3 naked dudes urinating and all kinds of nonsense on the subways, man. I'd rather take the helicopter if I had a choice. You know what I mean? Anyways, so here's this other thing, and we covered this yesterday. Elon Musk did this great thing over at X where all of a sudden you can see the country of origin on these accounts. Mm-hmm. And, I went through like right off the bat, I was like 3 of them that I saw. I was like, oh, coming out of East Asia and their MAGA accounts gone. Not interested.
I don't think I mentioned this yesterday, but the post that I saw that introduced this topic to me was just funny. Because I didn't know that this was happening at all. I just saw this post that popped up that says, "Hey, somebody needs to change this right now," and it says, "Your location." Your mom's basement.
Your mom's basement.
And I was like, what is going on?
Yes.
What is this?
So, anyways, this is something that just happened yesterday, right? So we had this Turning Point USA event here locally. It was a kind of a memorial, just community get together. It's kind of unofficial. It was officially organized, but it was just organized by a local community member who saw a lot of people online saying, "Hey, I'm from Poulsbo," and they're like, "There's a lot of people. Maybe we should get together." And so the idea is, hey, we need to build community. Like, we're all online. We all see this stuff. Well, when there was 2 events that got posted, and both of them got tons of hate. Like, all these people on Facebook did that. I can't believe these people are serving bigots, and these are going to be, may as well just have a KKK rally, or, like, I hope nobody of color shows up. It was like all these horrible things. This one restaurant's online Google and Facebook and Yelp reviews, just all these 1-star reviews. So their 5-star average is going down, And so
they'll survive.
But like 100 people showed up.
Yeah, they're going to survive. They'll be just fine.
Well, but the problem is you don't know that. It's the prisoner's dilemma, right? If I make a move, am I going to be the one who gets popped off, right? Like, okay, I'm going to open up my restaurant for this event, and then what if they win? Like, what if I lose business and nobody shows up? Like, this one person, there wasn't like a RSVP list or anything. And so she was getting all this hate mail, and she's opening up her Facebook, and she's like, "Oh my gosh," and bad reviews. They come in on her email, bing, bad review.
Well, I think we need to fight fire with fire and have more of these events in more restaurants, and restaurants that refuse should be boycotted.
Well, here's what happened. She got, she has a real job. Okay. It's kind of a nighttime restaurant, right? So she shows up, and there's a note on her door. She's like, "Oh my gosh." She goes up, and someone says, "Hey, we're going to be taking our kids to like a soccer game or something. We saw the event was posted. We just wanted to stop by and let you know we're there in spirit, and we'll come by and support you. Thank you for doing it."
Oh, wow.
And she was like, here she is getting online hate, and a real person took the time to drive over and post a note. "I appreciate what you're doing." And then the place was packed. It was packed, right? And it was like this overwhelming show of support. And it's like, listen, we are more than they. Like, we have so much in common with our neighbors. We live here, right? So this next story that I'm sharing with you, this is coming from...
if you want to fill up your restaurant, you should have one of these.
You should have one of these. Yes, people will come out and support. They want to be invited to enroll in something that... And there was a huge cross-section of people, kind of like, we have a lot in common with the gay, Jewish conservative, you know what I mean? Like, because this is our community. We all have to drive in this traffic. So this next little clip I'm showing you is I think his name is Greg Stitchfield, and he's talking about all these foreign accounts. And if you watch the video, if you're following us on any of the video channels, you're going to see here, these are like accounts on X and stuff like that blast out a lot of clips and assessment and pretend like they're in the United States.
The account's called MAGA Nation. My ass. This is about destroying MAGA Nation. You know where this account was formed? In an Eastern Bloc country, not the United States. This is about sowing chaos. The MAGA movement is under attack by foreign entities. How do I know? Elon Musk released a new version of X. All you have to do is tap on the date formed icon, and you can see where these accounts have been formed. I found hundreds, if not thousands, of these accounts based in Bangladesh, Turkey, Eastern Bloc countries, Middle East, you name it. These foreign entities are trying to have an effect on our politics here. They're trying to sow chaos within the conservative movement. Back to that MAGA Nation account, just look at what is at the top of their account. It's a Thomas Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene post. What do you think that's about? Making you angry and causing division amongst us. Know who you're following.
And that's the thing. A lot of these online trolls, some of them are real, but that's just it. They're online.
Some of them are real. And I saw one yesterday that I was like, I'm sure this is AI, but it could be real. It was supposedly some Midwest MAGA guy, and he was complaining that his food stamps were being cut, and he was missing out on $2,800 a month. I was like, What?
I know, right? It's like, why do I even work? What am I doing?
Yeah.
It's like crazy.
This is not even.
I know. Well, the thing is with some of those clips is they could be completely fake, but then they get amplified by these accounts. So that was the other thing. The handful of accounts that I deleted, most of them originated in Nigeria. And I'm like, these are scam accounts. You know what I mean? Like clearly. But they were labeled MAGA this or MAGA news or something like that. But those are the accounts that were like amplifying any differences Marjorie Taylor Greene had with Trump. And it just created this spiral. Thomas Massey, I've got my own opinions about Thomas Massey. I play that clip of him being like, well, I'm going to let this bill go ahead out of committee, out of principle. It's like, it's out of your control now. That could have been your principled vote. But instead you throw it to the floor where your vote doesn't, is diluted by the majority kind of thing. There's another thing that Chuck Grassley put out yesterday. He put out this tweet basically telling RFK, back off farm pesticides. Now, for most of us peasants, we're like, well, pesticides are great until we learn it gives us cancer. And then we're like, let's get the vinegar mix. You know what I mean? Like, why are we using Roundup when we could be using salt and vinegar, or something like that? It's pretty much just as effective, minus the cancer. And so Chuck Grassley put out this post. Basically, Secretary RFK Jr. hired Callie, who is a crusader against pesticide. And so this young woman, I don't know her name, she posted a little video assessing this. And I found this to be very interesting. Again, when you get to Washington, man, you don't want to know how the sausage is made.
Thank God I saw this before his team tried to go delete it. So Senator Chuck Grassley just posted this, and I believe that he posted it himself. And typically their teams post for them. Typically when their teams post for them, it's very polished, and this is just not. So he said Secretary RFK Jr. hired Callie Means to advise him. Callie is crusading to stop pesticide use in ag. RFK promised not to advise on farming. He better not follow Callie on pesticides. Few things here. First of all, does he not know that RFK Jr. is the attorney that won the famous case against Roundup for proving that it causes cancer? And second, that he's Secretary of Health and Human Services, and if pesticides are causing negative health effects, he should probably say that. But I wanted to know why Chuck Grassley got so triggered over this. And honestly, it didn't take long to find out. He makes over $500,000 from agribusiness, which is really the chemical industry, and over $700,000 from the healthcare industry that profits off of us being sick. So I went over to see who his corporate donors are, and shocker, Dow Chemical. And Dow Chemical makes pesticides. And mind you, this is not a partisan issue. Most people want us to stop being poisoned. When farmers use pesticides, it doesn't just poison them, it poisons all of us because it gets in the food supply, it gets in the soil, and it gets into our water. And yes, there needs to be accountability there. The fact that Chuck Grassley is freaking out so much makes me believe that our outrage is working. So keep it up and get even louder. We want accountability. We want healthy regulations around pesticides. But as always, let me know your thoughts about this and make sure you're following me for more.
I remember when I was in prison in Missouri, I'm listening, it's like primary season, campaign season. And so there's ads on constantly. And there's this ad that's like, don't elect so-and-so. He's campaigning on getting rid of glyphosate chemicals and pesticides. And the Missouri Farmers Association strongly needs glyphosate in order to deal with pesticides. It's like, what? Like glyphosate is horrible. Like they're using the word. They're openly saying, don't elect this person. He'll get rid of the glyphosate. I'm like, I'd vote for him.
Yeah, twice.
Twice.
Early and often.
Oh my goodness.
The only thing that I would say, the only criticism I would say about her chat there is that she should have also said that our outrage is justified. It's completely justified.
What's so interesting about it is even if you talk to farmers, there's a scale thing to this, right? Like at a certain scale, the pesticides and all that kind of comes into play. It's the only way you can get the right kind of crop.
Right. You're not going to spray vinegar on 10,000 acres.
Yeah. You don't have a random, grasshopper outbreak that destroys your harvest. It's like there's reasons why they do it. Now, how can we avoid having, it's one thing for me to kill my weeds with vinegar and salt or whatever. It's another thing for you to deal with how do you kill the insects and not the crop, stuff like that. But if you talk to these farmers, they never eat their crop. They have their own organic gardens. You know what I mean? Like, to a man, without exception. Like, it doesn't matter how many acres they're farming, they never eat their crop. They have their own garden that they get everything. They might be potato farmers, but they have organic potatoes outside the kitchen window. They have their own stuff.
That is so true. I hadn't thought of that. You know what we should do? We should just go around and interview farmers and be like, so where's your garden?
Your food come from? I'm not asking about the food you sell to me. I'm asking where does your food come from? Where's the farm? Well, I only have this farm so I can have organic pork. You know what I mean? Like, I got those 2 piglets in the back. They're not for sale. This is the truth, by the way.
Yeah.
They never eat their own stuff. All right. So we're going to show a couple things here where maybe the foreign engagement farms have kind of warped our view of some people. Scott Bessent, just to talk about another gay man today.
Hey, that I like.
Hey, we're just going to be fearless and say what we think, So anyways.
You're doing a great job, Scott.
You're doing a great job, Scott. Yeah. So Scott Bessent worked for George Soros, and a lot of people have gone through all of Trump's cabinet and they've picked him apart. And there's all kinds of criticism, and anywhere you can get a wedge. And there are people in MAGA that are like so diehard America first, and they really are white Christian nationalists. I hate to admit it, like somewhere deep down inside. And so they'll take any issue with Scott Bessent being a gay man, or Scott Bessent having worked for Soros, or Scott Bessent having ever made a donation to a liberal, makes this big deal. Well, Scott Bessent actually got a chance to sit down on the Alex Marlowe show and address some of this. So I thought I thought it was beneficial to have this knowledge about Scott Bessent's history with dealing with both parties.
You were a Democrat for a long time, and I think even supporter of Hillary Clinton, if I remember. And then there's had to be a day we woke up and think Trump is for real. Can you take us back to when that was and when it dawned on you that you guys are completely simpatico on these issues?
Yeah, so Alex, it's a good opportunity to clarify the record.
Please, yeah,
because
please.
I think we can scratch out some New York Times talking points.
Yeah, let's do that.
Never a Democrat. Over the years, I would say I've donated $15 million to Republicans, maybe 300,000 or 400,000 to Democrats.
Wow.
Total. One notable was in 2000, I had held a fundraiser for Al Gore.
Okay.
But you got to remember, back in 2000, Al Gore and George W. Bush were just like that.
Sure.
The two parties weren't like that.
Yes, it's true.
And I actually think it's more the Republicans were here and the Democrats have just fallen off the left side of the page. So, and look, it might have been a very different world in terms of Iraq, Afghanistan, the endless wars. But I thought President Bush, on many things, did a good job.
Okay.
Someone said, "Oh, well, you donated to President Obama." During the primaries, I think I gave $1,500 because I disliked Hillary Clinton so much.
That's amazing.
And then I gave the money to something called Ready for Hillary.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to go and sit in the room and hear what they had to say. And I walked out of that meeting and I said, they're going to lose. That's when Harold Ickes Jr. had this meeting in New York with a bunch of financial people. And that was the best research money I ever spent.
Sometimes it's worth going and just hearing what they have to say, even if you got to pay for the dinner. I thought that was really interesting. It's like for years and years and years, there's a lot of people who have had conservative underpinnings, patriotic underpinnings, and the left has just gone off the page. So yes, if you supported Al Gore for whatever reason way back when, it's very plausible you're a MAGA hat wearing guy today. You know what I mean? I mean, shoot. Scott Bessent's gay. You'd think he'd have been excluded from the party, but that's clearly not the Republican Party. One of the things that has come out recently was,
well, that's the way the Democrats want to paint the Republicans. That's it.
Oh yeah, country club, Bible. What is it that Barack Obama said? They cling to their guns and their Bibles.
Sure.
And there is truth to that. The evangelical and the Christian and the traditional Catholic base does make up a lot of the fundamentalist Americans. And really what that is those are your peasants. We're just the people who have to live here, right? So we are always going to consistently cross sometimes ideological lines. We're going to cross religious lines in order to enact populist policy. What is populist policy? What's good for me, the little guy?
Well,
right?
I would
safe streets.
I would like to finally be able to buy another semi-automatic rifle. So I think it's time to bring a lawsuit against the state. For those that don't know, you can't buy a semi-auto anything in the state.
It's crazy, right?
It's stupid.
So all of a sudden there becomes this populist swing where it's like, hey, our rights, like if there's no law and order on the streets, we want guns, right? Because now we got to deal for it ourselves. And then it swings. Then we get our guns and then we use our guns and then we want less law enforcement. You know what I mean? And so it's like, but either way, you can easily see it. Political philosophers and thinkers from Machiavelli on down to Hegel and Marx and many others, Alexis de Tocqueville, all of them have identified the population, the peasants, right? The little guys, the actual backbone of the economy. You know, Henry Ford doesn't get rich selling cars to his rich friends. He gets rich selling cars to the guys who ride horses. You know what I mean? The everyday Joe. That
everybody.
Kind of yep, exactly. And so with polling recently, Donald Trump's polls have been dropping. And a lot of it is because Donald Trump has such a huge crossover appeal. A lot of Democrats, a lot of independents crossed over to vote. A lot of people that never voted showed up to vote just on elections where Donald Trump was on the ticket. So CNN did a little poll and they wanted to know, what is Trump's support inside the Republican Party itself? Because remember, regardless of what the polls are doing, the parties run the show. Okay, they've got the keys to the castle. So we can be as pissed off as we want to be out here. At the end of the day, all your decision makers are in these party apparatuses.
So is the president losing Republicans? No. Look, this is still Donald Trump's Republican Party, and we can see it here. It's like a rock, to quote Bob Seger. I mean, take a look here. Republicans who approve of Trump. 6 months ago, it was 87%. Now, well, hello, it's the same number. It's 87%. He has not lost any support among Republicans compared to 6 months ago. As I said at the beginning, he's like a rock. He's like a rock. The Republican base is sticking by Donald Trump at this point in time.
It really is interesting to watch his overall approval rating go down, but see this be completely constant here.
It is among independents. It is not among Republicans.
Okay, so how does this compare to past presidents in a second term?
Yeah, okay. I think this gives the game away, right? Which is Donald Trump. If you look at 21st century presidents' own party approval at this point in term two, who leads the pack? It's Donald John Trump. 87% of Republicans approve of Donald John Trump. You go back to 2013, 78% of Democrats supported Barack Obama, and it was 78% of Republicans who supported George W. Bush back in 2005 at this point. So Donald Trump has the biggest highest own party approval of any president who served their entire second term in the 21st century.
You could look at this one of two ways. You could say, obviously, he's doing way better than past presidents. Or you could say there is still room to settle. If there is a reversion to the mean here, if that does fall further, that could chip into his overall approval rating. Okay, Marjorie Taylor Greene resigning from Congress in January. One of the concerns is that Donald Trump backed someone in a primary against her. How has Donald Trump done in his congressional endorsements?
You know, when you go up against Donald Trump, you're going up against a buzzsaw because Donald Trump's endorsement record is hard to find anyone else who beats it. Times Trump endorsees won GOP primaries. In 2020, it was 98%. 2022, it was 95%. In 2024, it was 96%. And I will note the majority of times that Donald Trump backed a challenger to an incumbent like Marjorie Taylor Greene, that challenger won a majority of the time. The bottom line is this. There was a real reason why Marjorie Taylor Greene decided, you know what, it's not worth the fight, because more times than not, when you go up against Donald Trump in a Republican primary, you lose.
Not just more times, not almost all times.
Almost all of the times, yeah.
Based on these. All right. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's saying she's not going to run for president, but there are other questions, which is, hey, is she going to stay a Republican even? What do the markets think about that?
All right, so we go to the prediction markets here, and the chance to leave the Republican Party by January 1st of 2027. You can see it, 31%. I think this is a pretty good baseline, which is more likely than not Marjorie Taylor Greene will stay within the Republican ranks, but there's actually a pretty decent chance that she doesn't. And then that becomes really interesting to see what she has to say about Republicans and Donald Trump in particular if she decides to wave adios amigo.
So
Does this matter?
There's no home for her on the left, like inside the left as a Democrat. Like, we're not going to see a Tulsi Gabbard switch. That's not going to happen. But it was rumored yesterday that she took a job with The View. So she might be sitting next
Marjorie
to
Taylor Greene.
Yeah, it was rumored. I don't know. I didn't see it confirmed in like great sources, but breaking news in a couple places.
Does she get the right
Could have
amount
been coming out of Nigeria. I don't know. I didn't, too good to check.
Maybe she's got the right energy. I don't know.
Well, she would probably do fine on The View. The thing is with Marjorie Taylor Greene is she does have the ability to drop truth bombs. As long as she stays true to her common sense, she'll be very effective in whatever she does. But clearly, she saw something where she couldn't survive a primary and a general without Trump's endorsement. It is kind of interesting to consider, what about Massey? How's that going to work out? Right? I mean, are Massey and Rand Paul going to be immune to Donald Trump's unendorsing and criticism? I don't know. Mark Wayne Mullins, who just a few days ago, Trump had posted a video on his Truth Social featuring Mark Wayne Mullins as the last political person that was doing insider trading. Do you remember this? Mm-hmm. He invested in water boxes that were electronic.
What?
This was a video that Trump put out for insider
trading. I really
trading.
don't remember this.
Okay, well, he was featured as the last one, right? Okay. As basically, he bought this stock in this company that makes digital water meters, and suddenly the EPA requires digital water meters.
Yeah, okay? Meters. Okay, yeah.
So Trump has, put something out there that would probably make his phone ring, and people, you're insider trading, right? I don't want those digital water meters, which is a legit complaint, by the way. Okay, it's just more and more intrusion onto your property. So here he is on Laura Ingraham, basically telling people the straight news. Look, all this division is mostly coming from foreign accounts. Trump is the leader of this party.
Losing his mojo.
No, absolutely not. And all you got to do is just look at what happened to Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, and I get along with Marjorie, but when the president can disavow you and say he's pulling his endorsement, and within a few days, you decide not to run. We saw this same thing happen with Tom Tillis in North Carolina. President Trump is still the leader of our party, and he's drawing that message as such. And let me tell you, there isn't anybody in the party that works harder. That's why he has the respect of all the elected officials. I always told everybody, Laura, I'll never let anybody outwork me. And then I said, well, I'll never let any man outwork me because I think my wife outworks me every single day. And now I'm like, okay, well, I give up because President Trump will absolutely work me into the ground. And he knows that. And so everybody that sees him leading the party, he's drawing the vision. He's leading the economic drive. He's leading the healthcare conversation. He's securing our border. He's restored the military pride back in the men and women in uniform. He is the guy that's leading the party today. So for anybody to draw any other message is laughable. It's absolutely laughable.
And I think that's, again, X has transformed in a matter of 48 hours as these accounts get less and less engagement and there's less and less sowed division. Like it was just one of those things where you had these festering wedges and all of a sudden people are like, oh, that account's coming out of Nigeria or that account's coming out of Eastern Europe, non-EU. Okay, the Soviet bloc, you know what I mean? Or these accounts are coming out of Canada. It's like, what business? And then when you read some of the, when they're like, oh, I was out campaigning. It's like, oh my gosh, you were not out campaigning, Okay, so a couple of interesting things. The United States this quarter is going to be skipping the third quarter GDP estimate. So this is coming out of the Wall Street Journal. So basically the Fed and all of your big financial people are going to be flying blind as far as what was the GDP of third quarter this year. And the reason is because of the shutdown, this agency was, skeleton crew are not going to work at all. And so rather than do a delayed one, they're going to get on track to do the next one on time. So they're just flat out going to skip this one.
All right.
Yeah. Not that we ever trusted your numbers anyways, but
exactly.
It was a nice medal to pin on Trump's chest. GDP explodes. The good news with that is rather than have a depressed GDP number, the administration will kind of skip what would have undoubtedly been a dip, which would have been used as an arrow against them. And then when it comes back, it'll be back on track. Exactly. Another thing that came out is private payroll losses accelerated in the past 4 weeks, ADP reports. So ADP, who do they who does ADP service for the most part? Is it small business or medium-sized business?
That's ADT. I don't know who ADP is.
ADP is payroll processing.
I don't know.
So anyways, they said private companies lost an average of 13,500 jobs a week over the past 4 weeks. That's an acceleration from the 2,500 jobs a week, the last update a week ago. So my impression with ADP is that they handle payroll for...
it looks to me like they were doing payroll for fast food.
Yes, I think they handle payroll for like a lot of franchises.
Like
they
Wendy's.
Payroll for a lot of, basically like national brand small businesses.
Well, this would make sense to me because fast food, if people haven't noticed, is getting really expensive.
Well, there's some crossroads. Like, ADP will do payroll processing for businesses above 20 employees, but below 200. Because beyond that, then the companies usually have their own software, their own HR department, or there's some threshold. So they represent kind of this small, medium cap market, I believe. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Maybe they do payroll for Boeing. I don't know.
I'm imagining the same thing, that they're doing it for like McDonald's, and everybody go, well, McDonald's is huge, but most of them are just locally owned.
Yeah. So the question on this is, where are these jobs coming from, right? Are these margin jobs? Like, for example, with the introduction of AI, if you're a small business and you've got someone doing, I don't know, TypeScript or copy or something, like, you could eliminate a lot of jobs. A lot of secretarial work could be consolidated. Your secretary could be, your bookkeeper can be this, can be that, when they start incorporating AI tools for summaries and applications and blah, 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 blah. So it could be one of those things where this is just the margins, right? This is every small business in America right now is like, after a year of ChatGPT 4 and Grok, well, let's tighten the belt and let's get rid of some of the dead weight around here. You know what I mean? That could be happening, or who knows? I mean,
Frazier made a comment about ADP, says he's got 3 accounts, small to large.
I have 3 ADP accounts from large to small. Why do you have 3 ADP accounts? What are you talking about? Do you have 3 jobs? This is payroll processing. Are you processing payroll?
I don't know.
That's weird. Carlitz had said glyphosate turns male frogs into lady frogs. Yes. As said by Alex Jones himself. They're turning the freaking frogs gay. Let's see. You like my hat? No vacancy. Yeah, this is MAGA alternative hat. It doesn't offend all the lefties. Some of them look at it and they're like, yeah, I get it. Yeah. So Lee Zeldin, and again, the Trump administration is pretty good when it comes to the needs of the peasants. Again, you can't change everything overnight. That's the difficult thing for us to comprehend. A lot of these decisions get made and they get implemented over decades and decades and decades. And when they get reversed, it takes some time for things to reverse. Lee Zeldin talks about the data center boom in conjunction with energy production, in conjunction with coal, and how unfortunately the constituencies around the country don't all see the same when it comes to energy production. California doesn't see the merits of coal, whereas West Virginia is like, what's wrong with coal?
I visited coal plants in West Virginia, in Tennessee, in coal operations in Kentucky and North Dakota. And in my travels, these are lifelines for local communities, regions, for the economy, for affordable energy. And I've only been coming in contact with very passionate advocates who reject the left's message that all of these coal workers should just learn how to code. They don't think that they should just be getting rid of baseload power. These local residents don't look at intermittent sources like wind and solar as a substitute for baseload power. So messaging that might work for fundraising appeals of environmental NGOs in places like New York or California don't connect with these states that rely on coal and they don't want to see these coal plants go out. There might be some environmentalists who want to push out messaging from places like New York and California as if they speak for all of these states where these coal operations are supporting the economy. But I'm coming across communities that absolutely don't want their coal plants to be put out of business, and they feel quite passionately about it. The message should not be that they should just learn how to code.
Yeah, they feel quite passionately about not losing their jobs. I would too.
I was going to say thank you to Lee Zeldin for finally talking about baseload energy in the right way. People just don't understand this. They don't understand that the base load power supply in our country is all coal. It's all coal. And if we're going to have AI and we're going to have all these other things that need electricity, like, electric cars and all that kind of bullshit, base power is going to have to like quadruple or 20 times or 30 times. We're going to need a lot more coal, more than we can produce. And the only real way out of this is nuclear energy. But in the meantime, short term, we need coal bad.
Yeah, for sure. In China, they've got no problem firing up coal plants left and right. They're like, you hear the numbers, it boggles the brain. They're bringing on 92 a day. It's like, wow, what are they doing?
Entire plants every day.
It's
so dumb.
It's pretty wild. So here is Secretary Brooke Roland. She was on with CNBC, and she was being asked about China's deal to buy soybeans. Right now, Trump comes out, makes this big announcement. China's going to buy some soybeans and sorghum. What's that? I don't even know.
It's just another grain.
Another grain, right? And in classic fashion, as anybody who ever seems to deal with the Chinese learns over time, is they don't do what they say they're going to do.
And tell me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that you said in the White House, it said that China was going to buy 12 million metric tons of soybeans from the United States by January. We're now just about a month and a half away from that. They have, according to the USDA report, only made two big purchases, and they total in total 332,000 metric tons. How is that pledge, if that is a real pledge, and China has not confirmed that pledge, going to be made in that quick a time?
Andrew, thank you. We're actually about 1.5 million metric tons, but your point is still salient, right? That 1.5 million of 12 million, we've got a significant way to go. I know they are inking the deal this week or next week. Again, every sign is their commitment remains true that they will indeed buy or purchase 12 million metric tons or put the order in. It doesn't mean we'll move 12 million metric tons by the end of December, but it means that those orders will come in according to their commitment and their promise to our president and to Secretary Bessent and to Ambassador Greer. So again, we have every indication that those will continue to move. Even if the purchase order comes in before the end of December, those will move early next year.
Okay, so they're doing accrual accounting. That's what that tells me, which also means, Trump's $20 trillion being invested in America is also yet to be deposited. You know what I mean? It's accrual accounting. So I don't know. That's pretty interesting. The other thing, too, is...
this is a very important topic. Energy and farming should be our most hot topics here.
Yeah. And it's actually one of those things where it's very difficult for people that are not engaged or in an agricultural community to understand how important this is. Like, this is the food we eat. And like a wildfire in that field could have a nominal effect on your grocery prices. Like, you don't recognize that in America, we have tons of excess food, but how do I explain this? It's managed, right? I mean, because of the advent of big agribusiness, you have big mega farms, and you have a lot of farmers who are paid to fallow their fields to basically not farm. Why is that? Because they're maxing out the production on the acres that are in production. So something,
and they don't want the price to come down.
They don't want the price to come down. Yeah, the food industry has been highly regulated since the Great Depression. America has the ability to produce so much food abundance that it can drive farmers out of business because milk becomes pennies per gallon, right? It's just, we have the ability to be so abundant in our food production. We literally have to pay farmers not to farm. And this is a hard thing for, people who want to I just want an organic farm. It's like, yeah, I get it. Back when everything was organic in the Great Depression, they weren't thinking about chemical spray and stuff like that.
When you watch the outro to our show, that's organic farming.
That's organic farming. Yes. Yeah, exactly. What you're calling organic farming is just chemistry 2.0.
Exactly.
Right? Where we now know certain chemicals harm us. That's all it is. We're still doing, agri-farming with chemicals. We're just using, like we've referenced, vinegar instead of glyphosate for weed control. Okay, so Will Kane has a conversation. Oh man, I hate it when I forget these. Oh, E.J. Antoni, he's a Heritage founding economist, and he talks about basically the housing situation we have in this country is the core problem for the younger generation. This is a devastating thing. For anybody that has followed their home
value
value over the last couple of years. There's a direct correlation between the printing of money and the value of your house. Unfortunately, there's not a direct correlation between the printing of money and the wage you make. And so that has caused this huge gap. And in a number of 4 years, it's quite literally priced out a decade of people from house buying. And why has that happened? And the Heritage Foundation kind of lays it all out. So when you hear what it is that's caused the housing crisis and what it's going to take to reverse it, time.
I think the vice president really hits the nail on the head. This is a fundamental mismatch between supply and demand. The demand is obviously artificially high by tens of millions, as he points out, because of illegal aliens in this country who shouldn't even be here, right? And at the same time, on the supply side, you have seen overregulation, you have seen excessive costs imposed by government, and so that has reduced the supply. This is Econ 101, right? We decrease supply and we increase demand, you will get an increase in price, full stop. Now, you throw on top of that the monetary mismanagement by the Federal Reserve that has caused these violent changes in interest rates, and that's just been, gasoline on the fire. And I think if we look at, for example, the financial habits of Gen Z, and we compare that to millennials, Gen Z is actually much more conservative financially speaking. And yet the affordability for them is terrible when it comes to something like buying a home. So while you might find individuals in literally every generation who are not financially very responsible, right? I don't think we can paint a broad brush with Gen Z and say that somehow it's their fault. I think this is a systematic failure.
I think that's the struggle. Millennials grew up with this overabundance of credit, and I think millennials, as a broad brush, you can paint as kind of financially in the middle, and it really is a problem. Our grandparents grew up, savers win, debtors lose, but what they saved was real and tangible. The dollar represented some denomination of gold. Once we came off the gold standard and they turned on the printers, all of a sudden that advice of save your money
was bad
because it's deflating. You needed to save it in something that held value, at least at a zero, right? And for
most people, that was a house.
And so you have an entire generation of people. By the time you get to Gen X, and they kind of pass on this value system to the millennials, and I consider myself very peak of the millennials, if not Gen X. And the millennials kind of adopt this, well, we got to save money, but the only way we can pay for things is with credit. And that's two bad things. Saving money and living on credit, they're antithetical to each other, okay? Yeah. Now, Gen Z is also growing up making conscientious decisions about going to college or not. Like, it's interesting for me watching my kids as they literally debate, should I go to a tech school? Should I just go to the job market? Should I go to college? Because they're considering the debt load. Millennials didn't consider the debt load. Pell Grant, student loans, everybody gets in. And now they're like, yeah, you might get in and you might be able to pay for it, but then you got to pay for it. Right? And so that's a stark difference with the more younger generation as they're being more conscientious about those decisions, because not everybody with a college degree is doing so hot. When I was a kid, everybody with a college degree had a job and a house. And now it's almost everybody that doesn't have a college degree at my peer group has a job and a house. The ones with college degrees have an apartment and a student loan payment.
Trades are paying pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of that, you've got this situation with the illegal immigrants that have come in. They are sucking up housing. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I had this other...
Well, they also suck up trade jobs.
Yeah, I had this other clip where someone was talking about housing, and he goes, well, the illegal immigrants have taken all. Well, we don't know that. It's like, yes, you do. Because it defies common sense that these people are living out in campgrounds. You know what I mean? They're taking up housing, and that housing is taking up housing from the recent high school graduate or young sweetheart couple who just had a baby, right? They can't afford that starter home because it's filled with Jose, Maria, and their abuela. That's what's going on. And, God bless Jose, Maria, and the abuela, but you're not supposed to be here. So we mentioned yesterday that Donald Trump had tweeted out the Laura Logan interview with the two different CIA whistleblowers. And we played a clip yesterday talking about how these Venezuelans, through Smartmatic and the Dominion and all the software, have, manipulated elections. This is obviously an issue that's near and dear to my heart. And I can see how some people would get kind of tired of talking about it, right? But this is like the whole enchilada. Like everything we do and everything we're talking about becomes nebulous if we can't control and have elections in our government. At this point, we're just hanging on and hoping that the king or whoever's in charge allows us to pray in our closet still and attend worship and, love our families. But, more and more people are like, well, CPS takes the kids and our churches get closed down every time there's a virus. And you know what I mean? Like we have to fight back. And how do we fight back? We fight back through the ballot box. That's the whole point. Ballots instead of bullets, right? So when we're talking about the elections being compromised, there's no other topics. We can't discuss tax rates. Oh, great. The buses will be free or not. Well, at this point, it's not a matter of policy. It's a matter of blunt force trauma. You know what I mean? Make the king pay for them. Because if nothing follows law and order, which all hinges upon a, quote, free and fair election, we're in some serious trouble. And what we've seen ever since Trump came down that golden escalator, if we've seen intelligence agencies and NGOs and how they all work together in this laced effort in order to take down Donald Trump and vie for control over we the people. We are the product everybody wants. Our ability to purchase, our ability to consume, our ability to create and make are what they're trying to get control of, right? And so when these guys did this podcast and Trump posted it, it's massively significant in my opinion. And this is one of the pieces of advice that Ralph, I believe his name is Gary Bernstein, and Ralph Pizzulo, but this is Gary Bernstein. He's giving advice to Donald Trump, who came into a very bad situation. Economic issues, financial issues, international wars, trade problems, imbalances, national debt, all these different issues that Trump's been attacking. But now it comes down to one thing, and time is running out.
And so I would ask President Trump as early as possible, convene a commission and create a new intelligence organization. Sam Faddis was a very capable former CIA officer, wrote a book called Beyond Repair over a decade ago. I would use that book as the model, but you must create a counterintelligence service like Britain's MI5. To do that, you have to save the country. The problem for President Trump is he comes in and there's so many problems. There were so many things he had to deal with. He had to deal with the economy. He had to deal with hundreds of thousands of people that were put in here, illegally. They'll close the border. He had to deal with all sorts of illegal investigations against him. I'm not angry at the president for not getting to this yet, but he has to get to it now. Yeah. He has to get to the intelligence threats to this country now.
If he doesn't get to elections before the midterms,
He's got to get to it all now.
It's going to be a massacre.
He's out of time. You're out of time, Mr. President.
And people want him to wait. In the blink of an eye, it's going to be, well, you can't do that because we've got the midterms.
Anyone who recommends that the regime in Venezuela be allowed to remain for 3 months or 6 months or a transition is a traitor. They're giving them time to survive. Any one of them.
Basically what they're saying is they've still got the ability to manipulate elections. They still have all that control. This Cartel del Sol is the largest cartel the planet has ever seen. It is absolutely massive. Sure, Venezuela is a paper tiger as far as a ground army, but they put all of their energy, like Cuba, into foreign intelligence. Cuba rivals Russia, apparently, as far as foreign intel. I mean, they are basically just an intelligence state, and Venezuela is close behind. Okay, so anybody who tries to delay taking action to take Maduro out in Venezuela, to give them quarter, is helping them buy time. There are elections happening all over the world all the time. We are getting very tight where, there's candidates right now filling out their paperwork, getting ready for next year. Money is going to start being distributed and flowing. And so anybody that's telling us, and again, I'm not pro-war, and I've lived my life that way. I denied a commission into the military. Like, I've spoken out against it because, yeah, sure, I don't like terrorism, but I feel like we breed it when we go fight over there. Okay. So we're not pro-war for the sake of being pro-war by any means. But this Venezuela thing is a little bit different because they came for the elections. They came for the crown jewel itself of what it means to be a country that forms a nation. right? That to be able to self-govern. If we can't self-govern, then who governs us? Some weirdos in a closet in Venezuela running through servers in Serbia, running algorithms on, vote tabulators that our government tells us are safe and secure without ever fact-checking because they're lazy. You know what I mean? So anybody who doesn't understand this Venezuela problem either is an A read in or has nefarious intent.
I want to ask you, because of your position on Homeland Security, you may have some insight into the drug cartels. You are also on Senate Foreign Relations, and it is tomorrow that the Trump administration officially will designate the Cartel de los Soles as a foreign terrorist organization. That's the cartel the Trump administration says is linked to Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. Secretary Hegseth says it gives the administration new tools. Nothing's on or off the table, he says, militarily. Legally, what changes tomorrow? What becomes possible?
I think by doing this, they're pretending as if we are at war. They're pretending as if they've gotten some imprimatur to do what they want. When you have war, the rules of engagement are lessened. So, for example, we normally don't shoot boats that we suspect of being drug dealers. In fact, if the Coast Guard tomorrow started shooting all vessels that are off of Miami or off of San Diego, about 1 in 4 of the vessels that they normally board doesn't have drugs. So it actually would be unlawful if the Coast Guard started blowing up boats. But for some reason, they say, oh, we're at war off the coast of Venezuela. And so it's a different rule of engagement. It's one of war. But, Senator Kaine and I brought this up. And we said, if it's war, let's declare it as war. Let's have this discussion. Is it war or not? And the administration refused that. They want to have it both ways. They want to say,
it's not that they want to have it both ways. So we as peasants are now going to look at the situation that we have followed through all these news clips. And let's assume Rand Paul doesn't have time to, fill himself in on all the information.
Okay.
Every single person sitting in those seats in Congress may or may not have benefited from this election fraud that's been going on for decades.
Mm-hmm.
That was the big thing on January 6th. It came to, it was this realization like, well, if we think this election was bogus, then everybody sitting in there is now de facto, definitely not of the people.
Right.
Right. And so,
then remember when we found out how many of them had Dominion stock?
Yeah. Right. It's like their involvement in this stuff was legion. And so you start going, and then, Mitch McConnell, Kentucky, here's Rand Paul, Kentucky. And so it's like, what's going on here? Rand Paul is basically playing stupid to this Venezuela issue. Stupid to it. If Rand Paul actually watched the post that Donald Trump puts out, if he actually went to some of the briefings that I know they've been giving, that would be one thing. But then there's always the possibility we're way beyond that. You can't tell these people what's happening, why we're down in Venezuela outright, because they're in on it. You see what I'm saying? Now, I'm not saying Rand Paul is or any specific person, but just looking at this from a peasant who's read a few Tom Clancy novels, it seems like this might be what's going on.
We can just say these people are terrorists or narco-terrorists, so we can blow them up. But it's extraordinary that when some of them survive, they pluck them out of the water. They don't prosecute them for drugs. They don't collect drugs. They don't tell us if they were armed or not. They just send them back to their country, most of the time not being Venezuela. They've sent one back to Colombia and one back to Ecuador, but nobody's making any pretense of even interviewing them to find out who's selling you the drugs. Maybe we could find out who the kingpins are if they're involved in the drug trade. Not a word. And I've been given zero, not one briefing, because I'm skeptical of what they're doing. They don't brief me or the General Senate at all. A few hand-selected people may have gotten a briefing, but I have.
Okay, they don't.
Well, but then maybe you're not the expert that we should be talking to.
What did I just say? What did I just say? They're not going to brief you because you might be in on it, punk. Hey, let's go brief Bill Clinton on. Let's go brief Bill Clinton on Epstein, and while we're at it, let's tell him what we've got going on with Pablo Escobar. You know what I mean? It's like. Hey, we've been tracking this guy, Barry Seal. Makes you go, hey, don't go to that airport. Go to the other one. You know what I mean? Like, good heavens, man. Like, and they this is the military. They shoot these boats, they pluck them out of the water, and they're not even Venezuelan. What are they doing in Venezuela? Oh, they ship them back to Colombia and El Salvador. Okay.
Maybe they were. Maybe.
Okay. Now here's the other thing too. right? In a practical sense, like when you pop the on the street drug dealers, yeah, you want to get up the ladder and figure out who they are. We're way past that. We know who the dealers are. Like we know who, you know what I mean? When Hegseth came out, he's like, we know the routes, we know the drug smuggling, we know this. We told the fishermen, don't fish over here. You know what I mean? If you're going to go out to the ocean, head due west or due east. Don't head north.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, don't head north.
It's not hard.
I find that hilarious. Like, I don't care if there's drugs or not. This was an attack on our nation through Venezuela. We've covered this. Your nation's being run by narco terrorists. Go subscribe to Rumble Premium and you can go watch that episode. It's up in the private. Why? Because we stopped growing practically the moment we did that show, which we talked about beforehand, wondering if we should even do it. So again, proving us right. The other thing, too, that came out, a couple really interesting interviews. So Kash Patel sat down with Catherine Herridge, and this was a wide-ranging interview. It was quick and to the point. It'd be great if we had 27 minutes to watch it all. He covers his arrival at the FBI, Thomas Crook's investigation, Democrat lawmakers alleged in sedition. Is there lawful predicate to open up an inquiry and investigation? Clapper, Brennan, and others. Is the FBI pursuing a broader conspiracy allegedly designed to undermine President Trump? Burn bags discovered at the FBI, all this kind of stuff. And he does give a little bit of an update on the pipe bomber case. Now, with this pipe bomber case, right, the Blaze Media, Steve Baker, broke a story basically implicating and alleging that a Capitol Hill police officer, this woman, was the one who planted the pipe bomb.
Has she been arrested yet?
Huh?
Has she been arrested yet?
No. All
right.
Well, then they broke another story showing the footage where she planted the pipe bomb, and the next morning, the Capitol Hill police, who were deployed to go look for bombs, not even told there were two, only looked under two bushes. And then we found out there was a third bush they looked under, which happened to be a bush she went to go under. And then like something happened. And then she ended up going and sitting on the bench. So they went and looked at one bush where there was no pipe bomb. So then I listened to a podcast yesterday where they were speculating. And the speculation is the pipe bomb probably broke. Like the cap fell off, some clips fell off. And so then she goes and sits on the bench and makes a phone call. Hey, what do I do? The bomb broke. It won't even look plausible. And they're like, oh, just fix it and leave it by the bench. So when the cops originally got deployed, they went to the bush where she had gone to. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, the bench, right? The only places they look are the places this J6 pipe bomber looked. So Capitol Hill police found the bomb. Who's your number one suspect? Usually the one who finds it, right? Police places the bomb. So this is like kind of blown the story wide open because there's been this big misdirect to look elsewhere. I mean, I don't know. And the other explanation as to why their cell phone data wasn't included in the geofencing was because they were Capitol Hill police. And that's the numbers they excluded from the cache of data. So they knew if they sent the Capitol Hill police with their pinging phones, it would be excluded from the data, which is why we got initial word that the data was corrupted. And then AT&T, after Trump got elected, was like, well, the data wasn't actually corrupted. You never requested that data. We still have it, but you didn't, you excluded the data from your subpoenas. Okay, so here we go. J6 pipe bomb update, Kash Patel.
For the FBI in recent days.
Yes.
Of course, I'd like to have a little bit more, but can you share any more? Do you expect that there will be a charge before the end of the year?
My job is to protect the integrity of the investigation, and I know that causes a lot of backlash from some sectors of the online community, but I'd rather speak through our casework in public and be able to assure the American public that we are delivering actual accountability and just sit here and tell you, I think we're going to get them.
The military has conducted at least 21 strikes.
Okay, so one of the things that Emerald Robinson revealed was Trump, when he was briefed on this Venezuela situation and the hard data on the election algorithms, and Elon Musk got briefed and came to the same conclusion. This is the problem. And Elon Musk flew up and talked about Dominion voting machines at a rally. Trump was extremely upset because for 4 years, his team has been gaslighting him, basically saying the election was stolen in all these random different ways, and there wasn't really any one thing, and it's all these decentralized, a little bit of fraud in Wisconsin, a little bit of fraud here, a little bit of fraud there, but there's no coordinated effort to say, right? It's just the system is rigged. It's not that someone's rigging it. Well, when this information was provided, it's like, oh, it turns out someone's rigging it. Trump was furious about it. But there's still a lot of people, again, who benefit from the system, right? It's like what he said. Oh, we don't take stuff from the blue areas because we know that's where the audits will happen. We take it, we trim it off from the red areas. That's how you end up, Ron, with a county like Kitsap County that's blue. Why? Where are these people?
I don't know.
Where are these people? Have you ever talked to a homeowner that's like, tax me harder, county? Hey, I'd love to get some more building regulations. No. I mean, you get some weirdos out there that don't understand a thing or two, but generally, like, you'd think we would not vote some of this stuff in. Okay. Thomas Massey also did an interview with Steve Baker, the one who broke this pipe bomb story about the alleged Capitol Hill police officer. And he's been getting a lot of great information from Thomas Massey. So in this interview, Thomas Massey talks about how he got whistleblower reports and, you know, they're pursuing this pipe bomber lead, and he's met with Kash Patel. He's met with Dan Bongino. And so you've got to listen to this take here. This is happening right now with regards to this investigation.
Well, actually, before that conversation, there was a second letter from this whistleblower's attorney sent to you and Congressman Loudermilk, saying that they had become aware that the FBI was going to do a mole search and look for this guy.
Yeah. Okay. So Bongino did tell me, look, tomorrow we're going to round up everybody that was involved in this investigation. We're going to get them all in a room. We're going to get to the bottom of it. And he didn't say we're trying to find the whistleblower. No. But my spidey sense went off, and I almost said to him in that moment, you better not be trying to find the whistleblower.
Right.
Because law protects that individual. But I didn't say it. Okay. Also, I'm going to say this here on camera because it's important. One of Kash Patel's staff threatened my staff with a criminal investigation if we didn't straighten up and play ball.
I was going to ask you about that, but since you brought it up, and I didn't,
I'm bringing it up.
Okay, you brought it up.
And so, like a criminal investigation having nothing to do, he said it was going to be a fraud. We're going to investigate one of your staff for fraud. Right. And he told another one of my staff this. If you guys don't straighten up, you know, if you want to play hardball, if this is how you want to play it or something like that, this member of your staff is going to get criminally investigated for fraud. A very specific.
Right.
And that had just happened. So I told Bongino, I said, one of your guys is threatening my guys with an FBI investigation if we don't do what you want. And he said, I'll take care of that. I'll take care of that. Because even he understood that was not a good look. It's probably illegal, right? So the fallout of that is the FBI employee who threatened my staff. I have to tell you all this, by the way, Steve, and I have to tell all the listeners this, because this is the context in which I'm worried for the whistleblower. Mm-hmm. If they're willing to retaliate against a congressional office, which has speech or debate immunity and a lot of other protections, they may be willing to retaliate against a whistleblower.
You think? Go ask whistleblowers. How's that whistleblower protection law? It's a bunch of boop, boop, right? It doesn't work. But that's our current. So when Kash Patel is like, oh, we're gonna speak through our filings and through the judicial process, and at the same time they're threatening Massey, hey, you gotta get off this topic. Well, then why don't you make a press release and actually deny it or something like that? This is outrageous. Now, consider it from their perspective, and you hear the FBI protecting the situation. Let's pretend there's some affiliate involvement, right? Doesn't this sound like you're protecting your own? You know what I mean? Doesn't it sound like you're trying to protect the integrity of the FBI? Like, oh, we didn't flub up the investigation. One of the things I came to the absolute realization of is that you've got, 20,000, 30,000 FBI agents, and maybe you have 5,000 legit bad apples. That's a lot. Yeah. You can't fire 5,000 off the bat. can't root them out. And they're hard to identify because some of them are totally sleepers. Like they're legit bad people. And then you have some people that are just ideologically, you know, they've just worked a 20-year career going to DEI programs and, you know, affirmative action, this, that, or the other. And, you know, you must hate your whiteness training. You know what I mean? And so like, they don't really, you know, they're still baked into all of this. How do you take it down? If the Capitol Hill police planted the bomb, right? Okay. So here's my take. Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, in their experience working with government, it's just like us with the peasants. Our community's good, right? I can touch you. You're good. We don't really know the intent of people's hearts necessarily, but I can see you. I'm safe. We're good. So they have this bias that 95, 99% of the FBI, the Secret Service, DHS are all good guys, just trying to do a good job. And maybe they're right. Maybe they're right. But it's those handful of bad apples that aren't doing the job. Does that make sense? And if you don't root them out, root and stem, you end up in a situation like one of the other things Thomas Massey said in the interview when they were talking about these Epstein files. He had Bongino sitting, or Kash Patel sitting there going, I've reviewed the files and there's no one else to investigate. And he's like, well, did you review this person and this person and this person and this person? You know, basically telling them people, he's like, well, I don't see any of those files. Well, the survivors say it's in the 302s. The FBI documented it, wrote it down. And he's like, have you reviewed the 302s? Well, I have not. Well, then you haven't reviewed the files. You reviewed the former FBI that we all agree was corrupt, but suddenly you're in charge and now everything's fine and dandy, but you're trusting their assessment of what we already thought was bogus. So when you're testifying under oath saying there's no other leads, but you haven't looked at the 302s to see what leads there could be documented, you're looking at a top line conclusion by a corrupt FBI saying, nothing left to see here, folks.
Yeah. So do you want to join the corruption?
And that's where we're at. We're looking at Kash and Bongino going, well, it sounds like you're continuing the cover up. It sounds like you could have made an arrest of this Capitol Hill police officer. It sounds like now the world knows how deep this thing could possibly go. So you better hurry up and arrest 3 or 4 people that orchestrated on this own. A lone wolf cell, 3 people. Right? Or you're going to end up watching the whole temple crumble down on itself because this thing is going to have tentacles that go deep, 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 and deeper. You know what I mean? Here's another thing too. You know, you talk about how far they can go. This was released by Project Veritas. And again, everything that comes out of Project Veritas, these guys go to court nonstop. This is coming from Candace, we need to blackmail her. This is with regards to Candace Owens. And this is being written from Mary Barr Daly, who is a former senior DOJ official and happens to be the daughter of former AG Bill Barr. So this is a text message that was released between a DOJ employee who happens to be the daughter of Bill Barr, which is someone else with regards to Candace Owens and a blacked out name. I need you to start working on the blank and Candace Owens case. Armstrong will give you the commands. So this is Mary saying Armstrong will give you the commands, but we need to focus on black and blank first. Work with Armstrong on this. Send some underage girl to secure him. He's an easy target. The harder one is Candace because she's very resistant. Gather the group to come up with a good strategy, but don't waste time. For blank, it would be good to have something we could use to put him in jail. I don't want to be on that, says the respondent. Have you been working on the issue with Candace Owens? We need to blackmail her faster. Classic has been very affected. Classic. Tell Armstrong to send the photographer to follow her and also follow her husband. AW want to know if they need to focus on Candace or blank. Candace first. I'm so angry at her that I can't stop thinking. If the things she says about Klasick are taken seriously, they will investigate the use of money in the election campaign. We have to bring out material to destroy her reputation before she gets to us. Bill Barr's daughter at the DOJ.
Shocker.
Send the underage girl to secure him. He's an easy target. The harder one is Kansas because she's very resistant. It would be good for us to have something we could use to put him in jail. And
I don't even know what to say.
You wonder why it's hard for me with the J6 narrative to have just kind of taken it on the chin. And for people who know me, I don't know. I hope that's the way you describe it. I kind of took it on the chin for what it was. This is what it should have been. But instead, I got a 7-year, 3-month sentence, ended up spending 14 months in prison, federal prison, had my entire life uprooted economically, financially, everything. Most of my friends, I think the few of you that join us every morning on Rumble, but most of my lifelong friends I've lost contact with because I was toxic. Why? Because instead of giving me the $50 ticket, they wanted to throw me in jail too.
Spoke before that typically a person that protests, that parades on the Capitol, that comes in and says their piece, disrupts Congress or a congressional hearing, that they get a $60 fine and they are processed in and out immediately. I was given the second largest fine in American history for a misdemeanor, and it was $75,000 with $25,000 in restitution for being in the Capitol for 18 minutes. And there was another woman that received, I believe, $100,000 fine. Could you just talk about what that, you and your law enforcement experience, how you see the difference in those two, and how maybe that there was a second tier justice in the application of those punishments?
So if you go back and you look at it, like we were talking about prior to the podcast, if on any given day, if somebody came into one of the House buildings or one of the other buildings, or even into the Capitol, if you had a tour and you were taking a tour and then you went off and you start protesting in the Capitol, we'd go out and we'd give you 3 warnings. If you don't, obey us at the 3rd warning, we're going to go ahead and place you under arrest for that's not even unlawful entry. It's I'm forgetting the charge right now, but it's not a $60 fine. It's a $50 fine. It's a 61D is the charge we give you. We give you a 61D obstruction. I
think they call it parading.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, it is. It's parading. It's parading inside a congressional building. Thank you. It's a $50 fine. It is an arrest. It's a misdemeanor arrest, but it's an arrest that we can go out. We can give you a ticket. We usually do what's called mass processing. We bring everybody out, write them tickets. They leave. Then they have a certain number of days to come down to the Capitol Police headquarters, pay their $50. Their arrest is processed, and then they're sent on their way, and that's it. That's usually how that would happen. And if you look at I think we made 14 arrests on the night of January 6th.
So that was my expectation. Well, people are like, well, why did you go do what you do? Why'd you shake the beat? Because I wanted the $50 ticket. Yeah. Because I thought it would be cool to frame, look, hey, Peasants perspective. We went and, now I didn't want the ticket or anything, but that was, in my mind, I was in that realm of probability. We've only watched this happening for years and years. Kavanaugh protests on and on, these environmentalists that show up and crash these hearings. To me, whatever, and I'm not trying to justify my behavior, but it wasn't violent. It was protesty, it was rambunctious, but I wouldn't have categorized it as violent. No punches thrown.
The initial arrest reports that came out from Capitol Police, and I don't even know if they're online anymore, listed those, I think, as all except for, I think, one was a misdemeanor. I think we had one weapon charge. Everyone else was initially indicated as a misdemeanor arrest.
I've got a copy.
Yeah. Am I right? I believe they're misdemeanor arrests for the number of those charges.
Yeah, a lot of them were, initially let go the next day, and then a few of them they did come back and arrest again, and then a few of them they never touched, which is interesting. But now, as far as the disparity is huge. I faced 30 years of federal charges, and I had to fight it in court for 4 years. And I never even expected that, based on what we had just gone through in 2020, I never expected anything like that coming down.
That just reminded me, Will, I need to finish up answering Brady's question. I think you're tying into it is, in my 30 years of law enforcement, I've made a lot of arrests when I was with DC Police, and there was many times that we'd take people down for very serious arrests. I had one case where a guy had pulled out a gun and tried to shoot a partner, and we'd take them down, and you'd take them down to the U.S. Attorney's office. You'd take them through what's called a papering process, where they'd review what the charges, the matters of the case. and they'd often downgrade these cases. They'd reduce them, or they'd just outright no paper on, which means they'd drop all charges. But we'd have some of these cases reduced to, a person with a gun trying to assault somebody to attempt possession of ammunition. It's crazy what they're reducing things to. So when you think about, some of these people that were charged that were up there, and I'm a you do the crime, you do the time type of person, where if you're up there and you're violently assaulting officers or something like that, you need to be held accountable. But in my 30 years of law enforcement, I've never seen the level of penalties that were being handed out, like we saw with some of the J6 defendants. People that were being charged with, parading, obstructing Congress, and getting multiple years in jail. I can't think of anybody in the District of Columbia that's gotten multiple years in jail for a misdemeanor. It's just, it never happens.
Well, I think when you do that to one side of the political spectrum, you kind of hurt the reputation of the entire justice system, because people lose faith in like how you're treating some people differently than others. So,
well, that's why Lady Justice is blind.
Yeah,
because you don't want to have those biases that come into it. You don't want bribery. You don't want bias to come into how justice is delivered. And when people lose faith that justice is going to be fairly delivered, it causes a lot of concerns in society. So it's something that's important, regardless of the politics behind it. Everyone should get a fair trial, fair penalties. Based on what's happened in the past, things like that. So yeah, I tend to agree with you there.
So that's Officer Sund, or Chief Sund, who was the chief of police on January 6th, and then was kind of forced out. And again, there you go, 30 years of experience in that judicial district. You've never seen anything like this. Misdemeanors amplified it up to felonies. Usually it's felonies down to misdemeanors, right? I expected, and I said it from day one, I expected the $65 welcome to DC ticket. Apparently it's $50. Got the price wrong, right? I expected the $50 welcome to DC ticket. Worst case scenario. When the FBI called me, when I turned myself in, my expectation was go plead guilty to a $50 ticket. Take your licks up front. Instead of felony, 40 years in prison. Right? Life irrevocably altered. Meanwhile, James Comey yesterday and Letitia James both got their cases dropped, dismissed without prejudice by the judge, because Lindsay Halligan might not have been appointed correctly. Now, this is going to get appealed. This is what Attorney General Pam Bondi, when asked about this question, James Comey's and Letitia James's case were dismissed. What are you going to do?
If I could just get your reaction to the James Comey, Letitia James cases being dropped today. Back in Washington, James Comey put out a video. He said this matters most because a message has to be sent. The President of the United States cannot use the Department of Justice to target his political enemies. Your reaction
your
to
face
being dropped into that?
Sure, we'll be taking all available legal action, including an immediate appeal, to hold Letitia James and James Comey accountable for their unlawful conduct.
What's your reaction to his statement?
I'm going to keep going on this. I'm not worried about someone who has been charged with a very serious crime. His alleged actions were a betrayal of public trust.
If I could just get your reaction to the James Comey.
That's that. They're going to keep pursuing that.
Good.
They're taking out the Mafia Don for tax evasion if they have to. They
Now,
don't care.
I'm not a legal guy, but so I don't know the difference between an appeal and just refiling. But it seems to me when they say appeal, it's like, is this going to have stickiness that?
So what happens is the case was dismissed. So now they'll appeal the order of dismissal. We'll go to an appeals court, and the appeals court will say either they'll uphold the dismissal or not. Then they can take it to the next court, Supreme Court, either uphold or not. They can refile. So they could just go back to scratch, put a new attorney in there, start from scratch. That creates some other problems too.
Okay.
So, but they're going to get this thing. Like a lot of people are like, Halligan wasn't incorrectly appointed. If you go by that standard of justice, you've got people who all over the prison system can say, my attorney wasn't appointed properly.
Yeah, we should just let everybody out
of how guilty I am.
Yeah,
does that make sense? Okay. So Bill Maher had on Laura Trump. These little clips that we get are important. This is why we have a perceived division with our neighbors. Okay. We all live in an echo chamber. We all live in a bubble. We're only as good as the information we have. So here's Bill Maher, who makes a living basically telling the left they've gone too far, right? It's like a joke. Is he going to become Republican anytime soon? He's not. Okay. But he drank the Kool-Aid for a long time, but he's a reasonable person, right? So he sees how things are going. Hey, the transgender stuff's too far. Hey, look, Trump's trying to bring jobs home. You guys chill out. Jobs are jobs. Hey, tariffs are going to ruin the world. Okay, they haven't ruined the world yet. We should shut up about them, right? That kind of thing. Common sense. So he has Laura Trump on, and they're talking about, Trump going after his political enemies and stuff like that. And Laura is trying to basically say, listen, it didn't start with us. They came for us like never before. The left has no comprehension of how far these people went. I just read you tweets from Bill Barr's daughter, a DOJ official, talking about underage blackmail. That's confirmation, folks. Bill Barr's dad hired Jeffrey Epstein. You're now 3 generations deep into this thing. Bill Barr, Epstein died on his watch, was arrested on his watch. All that stuff got covered up. Those files got sealed, put away forever. No leads followed. Bill Barr. Now you're 3rd generation looking to blackmail someone with underage. Come on, folks.
Nepotism at its worst.
What do you need here? Oh, that the rank and file are upholding that. I hate to say it. I've been criticized for saying it by family. All cops are bad cops. Why? Because if there were any good cops, there wouldn't be bad cops. Doesn't mean there aren't good cops. It just means they haven't quite gotten their bad cops out of the ranks yet. Apples are rotting in the barrel. Okay. So here's Laura Trump basically explaining to Bill Maher, there's no comparison.
I can promise you this. Our family has been scrutinized, attacked under a microscope. I would probably argue more than any family.
Well, of course, because your father-in-law is the president.
Yeah,
twice.
but it's not just that he's the president, it's that he's Donald Trump as the president. I mean, they've gone after all of us in
they will
such
go after everybody.
an aggressive way.
They didn't go after Obama and Clinton in an aggressive way.
Not like this, Bill.
Oh, please.
But really? When did you see
Clinton,
Obama and Clinton's residences, personal private property, raided by the FBI? When did they have indictments against them to put them in jail for the rest of their life? Well, that everybody can agree were a little outrageous, Bill. Like, really?
I agree on the don't go into somebody's bathroom, but also you shouldn't probably keeping files in your bathroom. But yes, that was over the top.
It was a little over the top.
Over the top.
Yeah. I can promise you that.
He's being very now a little over the top for documents. Should have been like, he had the right to the documents. And they proved the documents they were looking for that they were up to no good. Like really up to no good, like a coup. Okay, we are going to be jumping over into private, and I'm going to tease you with what we're going to be talking about over there. So the big news has been these senators and representatives that came out and told the military, don't follow orders if you think they're unlawful, setting off a cascade of people calling claims of sedition, treason, including the president. We covered all this in previous episodes. Go watch them. They need the views. Official statement from the Department of War yesterday. The Department of War has received serious allegations of misconduct against Captain Mark Kelly, United States Navy, retired. In accordance with the Uniform Code of Military Justice, 10 U.S.C. 688, and other applicable regulations, a thorough review of these allegations has been initiated to determine further actions, which may include recall to active duty for court-martial proceedings or administrative measures. This is coming straight out of what used to be the DoD, now the Department of War. This matter will be handled in compliance with military law, ensuring due process and impartiality. Further official comments will be limited to preserve the integrity of the proceedings. The Department of War reminds all individuals that military retirees remain subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice for applicable offenses in federal laws such as USC 18-238-7, prohibit actions intended to interfere with the loyalty, morale, or good order and discipline of the armed forces. Any violation will be addressed through appropriate legal channels. All service members are reminded that they have a legal obligation under the UCMJ to obey lawful orders and that orders are presumed to be lawful. A service member's personal philosophy does not justify or excuse the disobedience of an otherwise unlawful order. So we're going to be going over this in the private. It is some good stuff. So we'll be talking to you guys over there. We'll talk to you guys in a minute. Bye.